Hello everyone, my name is Ranjan and welcome back to the second part of our tutorial on how to create a custom standalone game launcher for your UDK games. So in the last tutorial we learned how to design our launcher. We added a couple of buttons, and in this tutorial we will add functions to each of these buttons. So first of all, let's add a function to our start game button. We will double click on it and we will type try and press enter, and we'll type shell open parentheses, type application dot startup path, and we will type binaries slash win32 slash udk.exe, and we'll close the parentheses, and inside the catch block we will type message box open parentheses ex, which refers to this exception here, dot message comma. We'll make sure the message box style is critical, and we'll close the parentheses. So what this means is that if we press the start game, it will try to execute udk.exe, which is located in binaries win32 folder, and this application.startup path means the path where our exe, our launcher.exe is located. And this message box means if it fails to start this udk.exe, for example if no such file exists, then this message box will display file not found. I'll show you an example now. If I debug it and if I press start game button, it will pop up an error message saying file not found. Okay, so if I copy my game launcher.exe, it is located in where you saved your project, and inside bin debug folder you can go to UDK. This is my UDK installation directory. I will copy it here, and if I press start game now, it will launch udk.exe. Okay, so now you know how to launch the game. Now let's go to settings button. Oh, okay, it's already defined here. Then we'll go to readme, and inside readme we will also add a try catch block, and in the try block, instead of typing shell, we will type process dot start. We'll type application dot startup path and readme dot txt, and we'll close the parentheses, and we'll copy this message box here and we'll paste it into our catch block. So what this means is it will try to execute readme.txt, which is, make sure you add a slash there, which is in your application startup path, and if it fails to open, then it will pop up an error message. Let's try that too. I think I have a readme file there. I know the system cannot find the file specified because there's no such file called readme.txt in my debug folder. So what I'm gonna do is copy it, and I'll show you inside my UDK launcher I have a readme file there. So I'll just simply override the old version and then I'll open it, and when I press readme, it will open this readme file because we typed application.startuppath and readme.txt. So if I press it, then it opens the readme file. Okay, now for the exit button, we'll double click it and we'll simply type me.close open parentheses and close parentheses. Debug it. If I press the exit, it will close the form. Okay, now we can go ahead and add functions for our settings dialog. Okay, so now in here there's before we start to script this, we need to add a DLL file. So this DLL file is available with the project files, and to add it, we will right click on My Game Launcher and we'll select Add Reference, and we'll navigate to where our DL file is. In my case, I have it on my desktop, and I'll type game. Okay, there it is, game launcher.dll. We'll select it and we'll press OK. So now what we have to do is double click on our settings dialog, and above this public class settings form we need to type imports launcher dot game launcher. Okay, now we can start to add our functions, and here we need to make sure that when the resolution is changed, when we change these settings and when we press the save button, we need everything to be saved in our INI file. Okay, so now there's a couple of things that we need to do before we start our INI procedures, and that is, when we press the save button, we need to save the values into our INI file, and also we need to save these values so that the next time it opens up, it will load them. So for that, we'll right click on our My Game Launcher, we will go to Properties, and we'll select Settings, and we'll add in Resolution Setting, and we'll make sure that it is string, and then we'll add another one, Motion Blur Setting, and we'll make sure it's Boolean because it's a checkbox and it is a true or false value. And also we have ambient occlusion, we'll type AO setting, and we'll make sure it is also a Boolean. We can save this, and now we first need to configure the save button. So when the save button is pressed, all these values, that is resolution value, motion blur, and ambient occlusion, are saved into our new settings that we just created. So for that, what I'm going to do is my dot settings dot resolution setting, we just added it, is equal to what was the name of our combo box? I forgot that. Combo box one. Okay, we can name it like resolution selector. Okay, so we will type resolution selector dot text. Okay, now we will type my settings, my dot settings dot what did I add? I forgot that. Okay, motion blur setting is equal to enable motion blur dot checked. Okay, checked state. Okay, checked. And then we will type my dot settings dot AO setting is equal to enable ambient occlusion dot checked, and we'll make sure that we save our settings, save it, and we'll close this form. Okay, and now when we load our settings, when we load it, we need to populate the settings of each of these controls from our settings menu, and for that we will type resolution selector dot text is equal to my dot settings dot resolution setting, and enable motion blur dot checked is equal to my dot settings dot what was that? Okay, motion blur setting, and AO, okay, enable ambient occlusion dot checked is equal to my dot settings dot AO setting. Okay, now we will debug it, and let's open up settings. Currently there is nothing because we haven't saved anything, so we will select 1024 into SAM68. We'll enable motion blur and ambient occlusion. We'll press save, and let's close this one. And if we debug it again and press the settings, you can see it will load those values from the settings that you just saved. You can close it. Okay, we can turn it off, save it, open it. It will still be turned off. Okay, we haven't added anything to our cancel button, so we'll double click on cancel and we will simply tap me.close. It will not save anything. It will simply ignore all settings and closes the foam. Okay, now what we want to do is we save the settings in our form. Now we want to apply them when the save button is pressed. So for that, we will type get ini open parentheses, and we'll type application dot startup path, and we'll type like UDK game slash, we need to add a slash here too, get game slash config slash UDK engine dot ini, because that's where the system settings are. We can check it, UDK game config UDK engine dot ini. We have system settings there. Okay, here they are. Now we need to configure these values. So okay, now we need to save the settings into our ini file. So first we need to save the resolution settings. For that, we'll type if, we will add a if expression, if resolution selector dot selected index is equal to 0, then we will save to ini the section. It is system settings. Section is system settings. This is the section, and this, okay, this is the key value. Okay, so system settings, and sorry, the key, and this is the key, and this is the key value. Okay, so we will type a key is res x, and our key value is 800. We'll close the parentheses. We will copy this one, and we'll change the res x to res y, and we'll make sure it is x to 600. Else, if the resolution dot selected index is equal to 1, then we will save it as 1024 into 768, and else we will copy it, paste it, make sure 1280 into 720. Okay, so what this means is that when the save button is pressed, and if the resolution dot selector, that is our drop down list, has 800 into 600 selected, then it will save the values 800 into 600. And then we need our motion blur setting. For that, we will type save to ini. We have system settings, comma, and we need I think it is motion blur. Okay, motion blur and comma, we will type enable motion blur dot checked. That means if enable motion blur is turned on, then it will save true, else it will save false. Then we'll copy this again, we will paste it and type in ambient occlusion, and we'll change this to enable ambient occlusion dot checked. Okay, so we're halfway there. Now what this means is that when the save button is pressed, it will save the resolutions, and it will save the motion blur setting, and it will save the ambient occlusion setting, and then it will save all those settings into our Windows Form settings, and it will save them and it will close it. If the cancel is pressed, nothing happens. It will simply close the form. Okay, so now let's test it. We will debug it, and I'll copy it from my debug folder to this one. Okay, I'm going to launch my launcher, and let's see if everything is working fine. It should. You can see now our motion blur is turned on. We have ambient occlusion, and the resolution is 1080 into 1024. So what I'm going to do is I'll open up settings. I will set this to 800 600. I will turn off, we don't have motion blur turned on, we don't have ambient occlusion turned on. We'll press save. Okay, sorry. To avoid this error message, make sure that you have game launcher.dll, copy it and paste it where your launcher resides. So now we'll open up the settings. We will set the resolution to 1024 into 768. We will turn off motion blur and ambient occlusion. We will press save. Now if we go to UDK game, config, UDK engine, search for system settings, you can see our motion blur is turned off, ambient occlusion is turned off, and our resolution is 1024 into 768. Let's change them. We'll open up settings. We can turn on motion blur. We don't want ambient occlusion. We can change the resolution to 800 600. We can save it. Okay, now let's see what happens. System settings, find next. Let's see. You can see the resolution is 800 600. We have motion blur turned on here. We don't have ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion is turned off, and our resolution is 800 600. Okay, if I change to 1024 and press cancel, it will not save it. Okay, so now one more thing we need to do. When the game is launched, we want the launcher to close, and if there's any error message, also we want the launcher to close. So now I think that pretty much covers everything. Now, so you can see we have our launcher here. If you want to customize these things, my game launcher, version settings and stuff like that, you can right click on my game launcher, go to properties, and select the assembly information. We can change the title to whatever you want and add description. My game launcher for my game. Awesome game. Company, well, my company. Yeah. Product, your product name, copyright, trademark, blah blah blah, and your assembly version, file version, and press OK. And make sure to turn this on, make single instance application, so that only one instance can be activated at a time. And for the icon, I will change this, browse it. I have an icon here, I will use that. We'll save it and debug it. Now if I go to debug folder, fresh, well, it should change. I don't know, it's weird. Copy. I don't know. Well, it should change, and it will change. Don't worry, something wrong here. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers everything, and thank you for watching. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to contact me. You can send a comment, you can personal message me, PM me, whatever, and I'll be glad to help you out. If there's any mistake in this tutorial, or if there's anything that I haven't covered, please do send me a message and I'll be glad to help you. So thank you very much and have a nice day.